So you want to start the carnivore diet, but you have some questions. Should I go cold turkey or ease into it? What version of carnivore should I do? Is there anything I should be careful with or pay a little extra attention to? In today's video, we are going to cover some of these special considerations to keep in mind as you're starting carnivore, and hopefully by the end of this video, you're going to feel a lot more confident. I'm Jenny. I've been following the carnivore diet for 17 months, and I've been tracking my progress through weight measurements, DEXA scans, continuous glucose monitoring, blood work, and arterial scans, and I've been sharing all of that information with you here on YouTube. As of recording, I have lost 43 pounds following the carnivore lifestyle. Now, when I first started carnivore, I didn't take any special considerations into account. I just binge watched some of Dr. Ken Berry's videos and I dove right in, head first, cold turkey. And now that I've been on carnivore for some time and I've been coaching other people on carnivore for some time, I realized, maybe I should have thought about it a little bit more. There are some special considerations to take into account and also a couple of decisions to make that can hopefully make your transition to the carnivore diet a little bit easier. Now, before we get started, I wanted to mention that 87% of the people that are watching this channel are not subscribed, and I'd really like to get that number down to 50% or less. So if you enjoy my content, please consider hitting that subscribe button. It really does help the channel to grow, and I really appreciate it. So let's dive right in. The first decision you need to make is if you're going to go cold turkey. Just start carnivore, all in, zero carbs from the get-go. Or are you going to ease into carnivore? Are you going to slowly ramp down your carbs until you get down to that close to zero mark? And to help you make that decision, there's a few considerations to keep in mind. The first consideration is, are you an abstainer or a moderator? Well, what the heck is that? Well, an abstainer is a person that can't have just one drink, one chip, one piece of chocolate. If it's in the house, it is going to be consumed very quickly. A moderator, on the other hand, is able to say no. They can have sweet treats in the house and not devour them quickly. They're able to have one drink and stop. So, looking at yourself, are you an abstainer or a moderator? An abstainer might benefit from going cold turkey into carnivore because it's harder for them to slowly ramp down those carbs. It's typically much easier for them to just cut all the carbs out all at once. Moderators might have an easier time lowering those carbs gradually. They can lower their carbs down to 100 grams for a couple of weeks, and then 50 grams, and then 20 grams, and then they can get down to that close to 0 grams of carbs that you are consuming on the carnivore diet. So now that we've determined if you're an abstainer or a moderator, the next consideration is, how are you currently eating? If you're eating a ketogenic diet already or pretty low carb, like 50 grams a day or under, it's going to be easier for you in theory to make the transition over to carnivore because your body is already used to using less carbs as fuel. I think people that are already keto can go cold turkey into carnivore without a lot of issues. On the other hand, if you're consuming 300, 400, 500 plus grams of carbs per day, you're most likely not going to feel great if you immediately drop your carbs down to close to zero. So that's another thing to take into consideration when you're thinking about either going cold turkey or easing into it. The next consideration in making that decision are time constraints. What's your work schedule look like? Do you have a huge event coming up, like your kid's wedding or a big trip? The first month or so on carnivore can be bad for some people in that they experience moderate to severe keto flu symptoms. And, some people, they just want to get that out of the way. So like, okay, gung ho, I'm just going to suffer through it, get it done, and then it's done. But on the other hand, if you have a big event coming up or a really heavy work schedule, it might be a better idea to ease into carnivore so you're not dealing with fits of diarrhea or feeling super run down or, the multitude of other symptoms that can come along with the keto flu. Another consideration is your tolerance for pain. We talked about this a little bit in the last one, but for some people, keto flu is a real bitch. For me, my keto flu was 4 to 6 weeks, and the symptoms for me were light diarrhea and extreme fatigue. But I'm the type of person that just wants to get through it, and I do have a high tolerance for pain, but there are some people out there that they just don't like feeling that uncomfortable, and that's totally okay. Now, there are ways to mitigate keto flu symptoms, and one of the best ways is to use electrolytes in the beginning of carnivore. I'd like to mention today's sponsor, LMNT electrolytes, because that's the brand of electrolytes that I use. When you're in the beginning of carnivore, you typically lose a lot of weight, and a lot of that weight is water weight. When you're losing water, you're losing electrolytes, and that can make keto flu symptoms a lot worse. So I recommend drinking 1 packet of the raw unflavored LMNT in 16 to 24 ounces of water first thing in the morning, right when you wake up. That way you can mitigate some of these keto flu symptoms, hopefully stop them before they even start. And if you still feel crappy throughout the day, feeling fatigue, run down, you can do another packet and that will help take the edge off. Right now, LMNT is offering my viewers a free sample pack with any drink mix order. That's 8 single serving packets free with any drink mix order. So what I recommend is before starting carnivore, either cold turkey or easing into it, order yourself a box of the raw unflavored LMNT using my link, and then you'll get the sample pack so you can try out all of their flavors. I'm almost always using the raw unflavored on carnivore, but some days I like to mix it up and I'll do a watermelon or a mango chili. Head over to drinklmnt.com/Jenny Mitich, that's DRINKLMNT.com/Jenny Mitich, and get your free sample pack with any drink mix order today. Your final consideration for if you should go cold turkey into carnivore or ease into it is your why. Why are you doing carnivore in the first place? If you're coming to carnivore because you have some kind of chronic ailment like Crohn's, IBS, hardcore psoriasis flare-ups, rheumatoid arthritis, or things like that, perhaps going cold turkey would be best for you because you're already experiencing some horrible symptoms, and living like that with all of those symptoms is not really living, right? So going cold turkey into carnivore could actually provide a lot of relief for you. If you're coming into carnivore because you want to lose some weight, maybe lower your blood glucose levels, but it's not so, life or death, you could probably benefit from easing into carnivore and allowing your body some time to transition into using the fat and protein as fuel as opposed to carbs. You don't have such a dire situation as somebody that's having to run to the bathroom, for example, like 60 times a day, So hopefully, taking all of those considerations into mind, you now have a better idea of whether you are going to go cold turkey into carnivore or if you're going to ease into it. But now that you have that decided, or at least you have everything you need to make that decision, the next consideration is what version of carnivore are you going to do? There are lots of different versions of carnivore based on the level of strictness. And again, your whys are going to help you determine which version of carnivore you should start off with. I have a whole video that goes into detail about how to figure this out. I will link it in the description at the end of this video and up above currently, but really it just boils down to why are you doing carnivore in the first place? If you are coming to carnivore very sick, chronic autoimmune issues, things like that, you would most likely benefit from a stricter version of carnivore. You may have heard of Mikhaila Peterson. She had severe childhood autoimmune issues, and when she started carnivore, she had to just eat beef. She was eating beef, salt, and water for I think the first 5 years she was on the carnivore diet. But she basically cured herself. Now that's an extreme case, but I think the sicker you are, the more strict you should be on carnivore. If you're coming to carnivore because you just want to lose some weight, maybe you have type 2 diabetes and you'd like to lower the amount of insulin you have to take, or you'd like to improve your energy levels, I think you can start with a less strict version of carnivore. I recommend all meat, all seafood, eggs, and butter. I don't typically recommend including a lot of dairy in carnivore because it's, first off, very easy to overeat. Second, it can slow down your weight loss. And third, a lot of people don't even realize that they're having inflammatory reactions to dairy, but it is really common. If you start carnivore and after 90 days, you're still not feeling great, you're still feeling pretty inflamed, you may want to go to a stricter level of carnivore. A lot of people have reactions to eggs, and that's a big part of the carnivore diet, so you might want to cut those out. Like I said, dairy, if you're including a lot of dairy, you might want to cut that out. For some people, you might want to add things in, like maybe you need to add in some more seafood, or perhaps you need to go higher fat. But this is something that you're going to figure out the longer you are on carnivore. You'll be able to make some tweaks, run some experiments on yourself, and see what works best for you. So now hopefully you have a better idea of what version of carnivore to start with. Now let's talk about the next special consideration, and that is medications. Specifically, high blood pressure medications, insulin, psychiatric meds. I highly recommend that you work with your doctor on this. At least let them know that you're doing an elimination diet in the form of a low carb diet, because a lot of people can see, like for example, blood pressure medication. Blood pressure tends to normalize pretty quickly on carnivore, so taking a blood pressure medication on top of that could cause low blood pressure, but you do not want to make adjustments to those medications on your own. Your doctor needs to do that. Same with insulin. A lot of people see their blood glucose levels normalize pretty quickly on carnivore, so you have to pay attention to the amount of insulin you're injecting. You may find that you need less. And if you're type 2 diabetic, you may find that you eventually won't need insulin at all. There are plenty of people out there that have gone into remission from type 2 diabetes using an ultra low carb diet. And for those of you with type 1 diabetes out there, you may find that you need less insulin overall. For the psychiatric end of things, carnivore can do wonders for depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia. If one of your whys is mental health related issues, I strongly suggest reading the book, Change Your Diet, Change Your Mind. I've put a link in the description to a free month of Audible so that you can listen to this book if you want to, maybe on your morning commute or when you're exercising, or maybe you just hate reading. Any way that you can consume this book, do it, because it's absolutely amazing. She goes into a couple of different styles of eating, including paleo, keto, and carnivore, and the different reasons why you would want to eat each particular way, depending on your psychiatric conditions and things like that. Another resource to check out for using ketogenic diets to heal from mental health conditions is a YouTube channel called Metabolic Mind. I'm going to put a link to that channel in the description as well. But regardless, if you are on any kind of medication, make sure you are paying attention to that and that you are working with your doctor to adjust those medications as needed. Don't just stop taking your medications. You really need to talk to your doctor about that kind of stuff. The final consideration for starting the carnivore diet is mindset. Are you coming to this way of eating as a quick fix, as like a band-aid to just, lose a little bit of weight and then you're just going to go right back to the way you were eating before? Or do you see this as a complete lifestyle shift? Now, I'm definitely not saying that you have to stay on carnivore forever. I don't think that's true. But I do think that you cannot return to all of the ultra-processed foods, sugars, and things like that. Ultra-processed foods are not real foods. They are not sustaining health. They'll keep you alive, but they will not keep you healthy. It's imperative that you eat a real whole food diet, whatever that looks like for you in the long term. But you can never go back. The longer you eat real food, the more that crap food will make you feel like crap when you eat it. Recently, my husband and I took a weekend in Chicago. The boys were with their grandparents, and we ended up having a very high carb, ultra processed cheat meal in the form of a pizza. Now, I haven't had pizza since I started carnivore, and I remember why. After eating this, I felt so inflamed. I gained 8 pounds afterwards, and most of that was just inflammation and water weight, but I was just so bogged down. I felt very low energy for like a week and a half afterwards. And that's insane. Before carnivore, I would eat stuff like that often. And I guess it was just, I was always operating at a lower level. But now that I only eat real whole food, when I consume that kind of stuff, my body tells me, why are you eating that? And I think that's your body's way of communicating with you. Your body doesn't use words. Your body communicates through inflammation, pain, fatigue, energy levels. Lots of things that you're only going to notice if you're paying attention. So, final consideration, mindset. Do you want to be healthy? Do you want to live out the rest of your days doing what you want to do? Have the energy that you want to have, be able to play with your grandkids, or for me, keep up with my 2.5-year-old twin toddlers? Do you want to run that marathon? Do you want to travel the world when you hit retirement? In order to do all of that stuff, you have to eat real whole food consistently most of the time. So if your mindset is not there yet, that's completely okay. Just work on shifting your mindset over to this lifestyle shift. We briefly talked about which version of the carnivore diet you should start off with, so if you would like to dive a little bit deeper into that, I'm gonna link that video right here. If you're ready to start carnivore or you're doing it alone, I do have a carnivore community where we're doing carnivore together. We have live streams, weekly Zoom coaching calls, lots of posts, recipes, daily meals, workout routines. I'll put a link in the description to the Jenny Mitich Carnivore Community so you can give it a try and see if it's a good fit for you. I also have one-on-one coaching calls. I'll put a link to that in the description as well. If you have any questions whatsoever, please leave them in the comment section below. I hope you found this video to be helpful, and I will see you in the next one.